The alarm blared through the research vessel HFY. Red lights flashed in every corridor as the crew rushed to their stations. Captain Daypark gripped the armrests of his command chair, his eyes fixed on the view screen. A small alien ship tumbled through space ahead of them, trailing smoke and debris. "Life signs?" he asked. Tae-choi checked his console. The navigator's fingers moved quickly across the holographic display. "3 signatures, Captain. Definitely alive. The ship is badly damaged." Dr. Hana Kim stood in the doorway of the bridge, still wearing her lab coat from the medical bay. She had been examining plant samples from their last planetary survey when the alarm sounded. Now she watched the damaged vessel with concern in her dark eyes. "They need help," she said quietly. Captain Day nodded. "Bring them aboard." Carefully. The HFY extended its docking clamps and pulled the alien craft into the cargo bay. The crew gathered at a safe distance, weapons ready but not raised. First contact protocols were clear. Be prepared for anything. The airlock hissed open. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then 3 figures emerged from the shadows. They were tall, maybe 6 feet each, with bodies covered in sleek fur that shifted between gray and black. Bioluminescent stripes ran along their arms and faces, glowing blue and orange in the dim light. Their eyes were large and golden, with vertical pupils. Sharp claws extended from their fingers. Long tails swished behind them, twitching with obvious agitation. The aliens wore damaged armor that looked military. One of them, the tallest, bared his teeth. The fangs were impressive. He hissed, a sound that echoed through the cargo bay. "We are Vrax warriors," the tall one announced in surprisingly good human language. His translator worked perfectly. "You will surrender your vessel to us." The second alien, slightly smaller with a scar across his shoulder, raised his clawed hands. "Tremble before us. We are your conquerors." The third one, who looked the youngest, tried to roar. It came out a bit shaky. Lieutenant Hyan Kang, the security officer, raised his weapon slightly. The human crew tensed. This was it. First contact with an aggressive species. This could become a galactic incident. But Dr. Hana Kim did something unexpected. She gasped with delight. "Oh my goodness," she said, walking forward with her hands clasped together. "Look at you. Aren't you absolutely precious?" The tall Vrax warrior, whose name was Ticker, stopped mid-hiss. His bioluminescent stripes flickered with confusion. "What? Those patterns?" Hannah continued, approaching without any sign of fear. "And your eyes. They're beautiful. Are you a feline species?" "You must be." "Oh, this is so exciting." The scarred one, Ravik, tried to look more threatening. He growled low in his throat. "Human, we are warriors of the Vrax Empire. You should be afraid." Hannah tilted her head. She studied Ravik carefully, her medical training kicking in. "Sweetheart, you're hurt. That shoulder wound looks infected. When did that happen?" What?" Ravik's aggressive posture faltered. The youngest, Chen, attempted another roar. This time, his voice cracked halfway through. Hana's expression melted into pure maternal concern. "Oh, honey, your throat sounds sore. Have you been getting enough water?" She turned to Captain Day. "Can someone bring water? And the medical kit?" Captain Day stared at his chief medical officer. "Hannah, they just tried to conquer our ship. They're clearly in distress, Captain." Hannah turned back to the 3 aliens. "Now, I need you brave little ones to tell me exactly what happened to your ship." "Brave little ones?" Ticker repeated. His tail stopped swishing. "We are warriors." "Of course you are," Hana said in the same tone someone might use with an excited child. "Very fierce warriors. But even fierce warriors need medical attention." "Ravik, is it? May I look at that shoulder?" Ravik glanced at Ticker uncertainly. This was not how conquests were supposed to go. In all their training, in all the stories from older warriors, nobody mentioned humans who acted like this. I don't need... Ravik started to say. But then Hannah stepped closer. She was much smaller than the Vraks, barely reaching Ravik's chest. But she looked up at him with such genuine concern that his protests died in his throat. Her eyes were warm and kind, not afraid at all. "Let me see," she said gently. Ravik's clawed hand moved to his shoulder automatically. Beneath the damaged armor, the wound was obvious. Dark blood stained his fur. Hannah clicked her tongue. "That's infected. Come on, all three of you. Medical bay. Now, we're here to conquer." Shen protested weakly. "You can conquer after I treat that infection," Hannah said firmly. "And after you eat something. When did you three last have a proper meal?" The three Vraks looked at each other. Their threatening postures had completely dissolved. They stood in the cargo bay, surrounded by armed humans, looking increasingly like confused children. Ticker tried one more time. "We are dangerous." Hannah smiled. "I'm sure you are, sweetheart. Very dangerous. Now march to the medical bay before that infection gets worse. And someone find out what Vraks eat. I'm not having anyone go hungry on my ship." Captain Day watched in amazement as his chief medical officer herded 3 alien warriors out of the cargo bay. They went without resistance, their tails dragging on the floor, their bioluminescent stripes dimming to confused purple patterns. Lieutenant Hyam lowered his weapon. "Sir, what just happened?" Captain Day shook his head slowly. "I think Dr. Kim just conquered the conquerors." In the medical bay, Hannah sat Ravik down and began treating his wound. Ticker and Shen stood nearby, watching with wide golden eyes. The human doctor hummed softly as she worked, her movements gentle and efficient. "There we go," she said, applying the last bandage. "All better. Now, who wants to tell me why 3 young warriors are flying around in a damaged ship all by themselves?" The 3 Vraks exchanged glances. Their ears flattened against their heads. Nobody answered. They suddenly looked very small despite their size. Hannah's expression softened even more. "Oh, my brave little babies. What did you get yourselves into?" Ravik sat on the medical bed with fresh bandages on his shoulder. The infection had been worse than he wanted to admit. The human doctor had cleaned it carefully, using strange instruments that hummed and glowed. It didn't hurt. Actually, it felt better already. Hannah pulled up a chair and looked at the 3 young Vraks. "All right, start from the beginning. What happened?" Ticker crossed his arms. His pride was still trying to hold on. "We don't have to tell you anything human, Ticker, is it?" Hannah's voice was patient. "You're on my ship. You're injured. Your vessel is destroyed. And unless I'm very wrong, you're far from home." She paused. "Someone is probably worried about you." Shen's ears drooped. That hit close to the truth. Hannah saw it immediately. "How old are you 3? "Old enough to be warriors," Shen said quickly. "In your years or ours?" The question caught them off guard. Ticker's tail twitched. 17 cycles. Hannah did a quick calculation in her head based on what little humanity knew about Vrak's biology. "So, teenagers." "I thought so. We are adults in Vrak's culture." Ravik protested. "Barely adults flying a military scout ship without proper training." Hannah stood and went to a cabinet. She pulled out nutrient bars and water packets. "Here, eat these while you tell me the truth." The smell of food made all 3 Vraks freeze. Their pupils dilated. Despite themselves, they leaned toward the offered nutrition. "When did you last eat?" Hannah asked again, more gently. 2 days, Shen admitted quietly. Hannah's expression turned firm. She pressed the food into their hands. "Eat now, all of it. They ate. Once they started, they couldn't stop. The nutrient bars weren't meant for Vrax biology, but they were close enough. The three young aliens devoured everything Hannah gave them. While they ate, the door opened. Captain Day entered with Tae Choi and Lieutenant Hyon. They watched the scene with mixed expressions. "Doctor," Captain Day said carefully, "we need to discuss the situation." "Of course, Captain." Hannah gestured to the three Vrax. These children stole a scout ship from their military. They were attempting a coming-of-age raid. Their ship was already damaged when they left. It failed completely when they reached our sector. "How do you know all that?" Lieutenant Hyon asked. "Because I've raised 2 teenagers myself," Hannah said simply. "The signs are universal. Reckless behavior, trying to prove themselves, biting off more than they can chew." She looked at the Vrax with knowing eyes. "Am I wrong?" Ticker looked down at his clawed feet. His bioluminescent stripes turned a deep blue that Hannah was starting to recognize as embarrassment. "We wanted to prove we were ready," he said quietly, "to show we could be real warriors." "By raiding a civilian research vessel?" Tae Choi sounded amazed. "We thought it would be easy," Revik admitted. His ears were flat against his head. "We thought you would be afraid." "And then she called us precious," Shen added, sounding completely bewildered. Captain Day rubbed his temples. "This is going to create an interstellar incident." "Already has, sir." Lieutenant Hyon showed his datapad. "We're picking up a Vrax military signal. Large ship, war class. It's heading straight for us." The three young Vrax went very still. Their stripes turned pale with fear. "War Matron Cassara," Ticker whispered. "She's our commanding officer. Is she going to be angry?" Hannah asked. All 3 cubs nodded miserably. Hannah stood up, her expression determined. "Well, we'll just have to explain that you're safe and being cared for." "You don't understand," Ravik said. "We stole military property. We abandoned our posts. We failed our mission. The punishment is severe." "What kind of punishment?" Hannah's voice had an edge to it now. "Exile," Ticker said softly. "Or worse." Hannah looked at Captain Day. "We're not handing them over to be punished like criminals. They're children who made a mistake." "Hannah, we can't interfere with alien justice systems," the captain said. "They came to us for help, even if they didn't know it." Hannah crossed her arms. "And I'm not letting anyone hurt them." Tae Choi leaned against the wall, watching the exchange with interest. "You know, Captain, Dr. Kim has a point. In human culture, we have protections for juveniles. Maybe we should extend that courtesy." "The Vrax won't see it that way," Lieutenant Hyon warned. "Then we'll teach them," Hannah said firmly. Shen looked up at the human doctor with wide golden eyes. "Why are you protecting us?" "We tried to conquer your ship." Hannah smiled sadly. "Because your baby's trying to be brave. And that's not something to punish. That's something to guide." She pulled out a thermal blanket, the kind used for patients in shock. Before any of the Vrax could protest, she wrapped it around Shen's shoulders. "You're exhausted. All 3 of you. You need rest." "We're warriors," Ticker protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "Warriors need sleep too." Hannah prepared 2 more beds. "Come on, lie down." "We don't need," Ravik started to say. Hannah gave him a look. It was the kind of look that transcends species, the kind that mothers everywhere have perfected over millions of years. It said very clearly, "I'm not arguing about this." Ravik lay down. So did the others. Hannah dimmed the lights in the medical bay. "Rest. When the Vrax ship arrives, we'll handle it together." "You're very strange, human," Ticker murmured, his eyes already closing. "And you're very brave, little one," Hannah said softly. "Too brave for your own good sometimes." As the 3 young Vrax drifted to sleep, their bioluminescent stripes slowly fading to soft, peaceful colors, Captain Day pulled Hana aside. "You realize this could go very badly," he said quietly. "I realized that 3 children were so desperate to prove themselves that they risked their lives," Hana replied. "And I realized that someone needs to stand between them and whatever harsh punishment awaits them. Why does it have to be you?" Hana looked at the sleeping aliens, tucked in their blankets like oversized house cats. "Because I'm a doctor. And because someone has to." The captain sighed. "The Vrax warship will be here in 4 hours. Then we have 4 hours to figure out how to save my brave little babies from their own culture's idea of justice." In the corner of the medical bay, Shen mumbled in his sleep. His translator caught the words. Mother would be so angry. Hana's heart broke a little. She sat down in her chair, preparing for the confrontation ahead. These cubs had mothers who cared about them, families who would worry, and they'd risked everything for a chance to prove themselves. She wouldn't let them face punishment alone. Not if she could help it. Outside the ship, stars glittered in the darkness. And somewhere among them, a Vrax warship approached with weapons armed and justice on its mind. The Vrax warship appeared on their scanners exactly 4 hours later. It was massive, 3 times the size of the HFY, covered in dark metal plating and bristling with weapons. The humans watched nervously as it approached. Dr. Yuna Lee sat at the communication station, her hands shaking slightly as she prepared to make first contact. "Captain, they're hailing us." "Put them through," Captain Day ordered. The view screen flickered to life. A female Vrax appeared, larger than the 3 cubs, with silver streaks in her dark fur. Scars covered her arms and face. Her bioluminescent stripes glowed a fierce red. Her golden eyes held no warmth. "I am War Matron Kazara of the Vrax Empire," she said. Her voice was deep and commanding. "You have 3 of my warriors aboard your vessel. Return them immediately." Captain Day stood. "War Matron, your warriors are safe. They were injured when we found them. Our medical officer has been treating their wounds." Kasara's eyes narrowed. "Treating them? They are prisoners of war?" "No." Hana's voice came from off-screen. She stepped into view, still wearing her medical coat. "They're patients. And their children." The War Matron's stripes flared brighter. "Who are you?" "Dr. Hana Kim, Chief Medical Officer. And I'm the one taking care of your cubs." "Cubs?" Kazara's tone was dangerous. "They are warriors of the Vrax Empire. They're 17-year-old children who stole a broken ship and got themselves nearly killed," Hana said firmly. "That makes them cubs in my book." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at Hana. Nobody spoke to a Vrax war matron like that. Nobody. Kasara's claws extended. "Human, you will return my warriors. Now." "I will," Hana said. "But first, we need to talk about their care." They were malnourished, dehydrated, and one had a serious infection. "When was the last time someone checked their health status?" "That is not your concern." "It became my concern when they showed up on my ship half dead." Hana crossed her arms. "Are you their commanding officer?" "I am." "Then you're responsible for them. Do you know they were flying in a ship that was already damaged? Do you know they hadn't eaten in 2 days?" Kazara's expression shifted slightly. "What?" "Permission to board your vessel," Hana said. It wasn't really a request. "We need to discuss this face to face." Captain Day turned to Hana with wide eyes. "Doctor, maybe we should." "I'm going over there," Hana said quietly. "Those cubs need an advocate." 30 minutes later, War Matron Kasara stood in the SealWA's medical bay with 6 armed Vrax warriors behind her. She was enormous in person, nearly 7 feet tall, covered in battle scars and radiating authority. She found her 3 young warriors wrapped in thermal blankets, eating soup from human bowls. They looked up guiltily as she entered. "War Matron," Ticker stammered, trying to stand. The blanket fell off his shoulders. Kisara stared. Her stripes flickered through several colors. Confusion, anger, disbelief. "Explain," she commanded. The three cubs tried to speak at once, their words tumbling over each other. "We were dominating the humans. She made us soup. We had them exactly where we wanted. She called us precious." Kisara held up one clawed hand. Silence fell immediately. She turned to Hana, who stood calmly nearby. "What did you do to my warriors?" "I fed them, treated their wounds, and made them rest," Hana said. "You know, basic care. Things someone should have done before sending children into space." Kisara's eyes blazed. "You dare judge Vrak's military protocols? When those protocols send malnourished teenagers in broken ships to raid civilian vessels?" "Yes, I dare." Hana stepped forward. "They could have died, War Matron. All three of them." "Is that what you wanted?" "They are warriors. They knew the risks. They're barely adults." Hana's voice rose. "Look at them. Really look at them." Kisara looked. She saw Ticker clutching his soup bowl, Ravik with fresh bandages on his shoulder, his stripes showing embarrassment, Shen, the youngest, with his ears flat and tail curled around himself. They looked young, very young. "They stole a scout ship," Kisara said, her voice slightly less harsh. "They abandoned their training posts. They attempted an unauthorized raid. Because they wanted to prove themselves to you," Hana said. "Because whatever system you have made them feel like they had to risk everything just to be seen as worthy. The Vrak's way is strength. We do not coddle our young. There's a difference between strength and recklessness." Hana moved to stand between Kisara and the cubs. "And there's a difference between training and neglect." Kisara's claws flexed. Her warriors tensed, ready to act if she gave the command. The air in the medical bay felt electric with potential violence. Then Shen spoke quietly. "We just wanted to make you proud, War Matron." Kisara turned to him. Something shifted in her expression. "We wanted to show we were ready," Ravik added. "Ready to be real warriors like you." Ticker looked down. "We're sorry we failed." "Failed?" Hana looked at the cubs. "You survived a ship malfunction. You managed first contact with an unknown species. You accepted help when you needed it. How is any of that failure?" "We didn't conquer anything," Ticker said miserably. "Conquering isn't the only measure of success." Hana turned back to Kisara. "What punishment were you planning for them?" The War Matron's jaw tightened. "Exile from the warrior caste. Permanent disgrace. For being children who made a mistake. For breaking sacred laws." Hana took a deep breath. "Then claiming sanctuary for them under human protection." Captain Day, who had been watching from the doorway, nearly choked. "Hana, you can't—" "I can and I am," Hana said. "Human law protects juveniles from harsh punishment. These three qualify." Kisara's stripes turned deep crimson. "You would start a war over three foolish cubs?" "I would prevent an injustice." Hana met the War Matron's fierce gaze without flinching. "Punish them, fine. Make them earn back their honor, absolutely. But don't throw away their entire futures because they were scared kids trying to be brave." The medical bay was utterly silent. The 6 Vrak's warriors looked at their War Matron. The 3 cubs held their breath. Captain Day prepared for the worst. Kisara stared at the small human doctor who stood between her and her warriors. This tiny being who showed no fear, who called trained soldiers babies and scolded a War Matron. About proper care, something very strange was happening to Kisara's understanding of the universe. "You are the most irritating creature I have ever met," Kisara said finally. "Thank you," Hana replied. "Now sit down. We need to talk about proper nutrition for growing Vraks." To everyone's shock, War Matron Kisara sat down. The cubs stared. Their commander never backed down, never compromised, never listened to anyone except superior officers. But she was listening to Dr. Hannah Kim. These three need proper meals, regular health checkups, and emotional support, Hannah began. Also, someone needs to teach them it's okay to ask for help. Clearly, they didn't feel safe doing that before. Kesara's tail lashed once. Then, she looked at her young warriors. Really looked at them. Saw how thin they were. How scared. How desperate they'd been to prove themselves worthy of her approval. Perhaps, she said slowly, we need to discuss this further. Hannah smiled. Good, I'll make tea. News of the incident spread fast. Within 2 days, half the galaxy knew about the human doctor who had challenged a Vrax war matron over 3 young warriors. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Jin Wang arrived on the HFY looking tired. He was a calm man in his 50s, with gray at his temples and kind eyes that had seen too many difficult negotiations. He sat in Captain Day's office, reading the report for the 3rd time. Let me understand this correctly, Jin said. Dr. Kim claimed sanctuary for alien military personnel. She was protecting children. Captain Day explained. Children who attempted to conquer a human vessel. Attempted being the key word. Hannah sat across from the ambassador, her hands folded calmly in her lap. They were never a real threat. Jin rubbed his eyes. The Vrax Empire is one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. We've been trying to establish peaceful relations for years. And now they know we won't let them throw away young lives, Hannah finished. Is that really so bad? The Galactic Council is in an uproar. Some species think you've insulted the Vrax. Others think humanity is too soft to survive in space. Jin looked at her seriously. They want to know if your actions represent official human policy. They represent basic decency, Hannah said. The door opened. Lieutenant Hyan entered with a datapad. Ambassador, the council session is starting. They're ready for our testimony. The council meeting took place via holographic link. Representatives from 30 different species appeared as glowing figures in the HFY's conference room. The diversity was stunning. Beings of crystal and light, massive creatures of stone, delicate insect-like forms, and everything in between. War matron Kesara appeared as well, her image standing tall and imposing. The council head, a being called Elder Morak, who resembled a floating jellyfish, spoke first. We are here to discuss the incident between human vessel HFY and Vrax warriors. Ambassador Wang, please present humanity's position. Jin stood. Honored Council, humanity's position is simple. Dr. Hannah Kim acted to protect juveniles from disproportionate punishment. We believe this aligns with civilized values. A reptilian representative hissed. The Vrax have their own laws. You interfered. We offered sanctuary, Jin corrected. There's a difference. Kesara spoke, her voice filling the room. The human doctor showed no fear. She treated my warriors like helpless infants. She challenged my authority directly. And yet you're here negotiating instead of attacking. A crystalline being observed. Why? Kesara was silent for a long moment. Because she was right. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. A Vrax war matron admitting fault was unheard of. My warriors were malnourished, Kesara continued. They were desperate to prove themselves because our training methods do not allow for failure. They nearly died because we do not teach our young that asking for help is acceptable. She paused. The humans saw what we chose to ignore. Elder Morak's form pulsed thoughtfully. Dr. Kim, you are present? Hannah stood. I am. Explain your actions. I saw 3 injured children and treated them, Hannah said simply. That's what doctors do. They were enemy combatants, the reptilian argued. They were babies, Hana said firmly. Scared babies trying to act tough. Any parent would recognize that. Not all species have parental instincts like humans, a mechanical voice stated. It belonged to a robot-like being. Your reaction is unusual. Lieutenant Hyas stepped forward. If I may, Counsel, I'd like to present some historical data. Elder Morak gestured approval. Hyan activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing Earth's history. Wolves becoming dogs. Humans caring for orphaned animals. Rehabilitation centers for injured wildlife. Stories of people adopting everything from tigers to octopi. Humanity has a unique trait, Hyan explained. We adopt. We nurture. We see something that needs care, and we provide it. It's not logical. It's instinctive. It's a weakness, the reptilian hissed. It leaves you vulnerable, does it? Taejoy spoke up from his position. We've turned predators into loyal companions. We've studied and learned from every species we've nurtured. Our instinct to care has made us adaptable and empathetic. It's still dangerous in a hostile galaxy. Another voice argued. War Matron Kasara surprised everyone by speaking again. I disagree. All eyes turned to her. For 3 days, I have watched Dr. Kim interact with my warriors, Kasara said. She is fierce in their protection. She does not negotiate. She does not back down. This caring you call weakness? I call it a different kind of strength. In the corner, the 3 young Vrax cubs watched the proceedings. They had been allowed to attend as witnesses. Ticker's stripes glowed with amazement. His war matron was defending the human doctor. Shen whispered, She's really fighting for us. Both of them are, Ravik replied quietly. Ambassador Jin spoke again. Humanity proposes a cultural exchange program. Young warriors from interested species could train on human vessels. They would learn our methods alongside their own. They would see that accepting help doesn't diminish strength. You want to turn warriors into... What, caretakers? The reptilian sounded disgusted. I want to teach warriors that taking care of each other makes them stronger, not weaker, Jin said. Elder Morak pulsed in thought. War Matron Kisara, would the Vrax participate in such a program? Kisara looked at her 3 young warriors. They watched her with hope in their golden eyes. Cubs who had been willing to die rather than disappoint her. Who had risked everything for a chance to make her proud. On one condition, Kisara said. These 3 will be the first participants. They will stay aboard the HFY for 1 standard year. They will learn from Dr. Kim and the human crew. If they return as better warriors, then we will expand the program. Ticker, Ravik, and Shen looked at each other in shock. You're not exiling us? Ticker asked. Kisara's expression softened slightly. I am giving you a chance to become the warriors I always knew you could be. Stronger because you know when to fight and when to accept help. Hannah smiled from her position. I'll take good care of them, War Matron. I know you will, irritating human, Kisara replied. There might have been affection in her tone. The council debated for another hour. Finally, Elder Morak called for a vote. All in favor of establishing humanity as galactic caregivers with the proposed cultural exchange program? The vote was close, but it passed. 20 species approved. 10 abstained or voted against. It was enough. As the holograms faded, Hana went to her 3 cubs. They stood uncertainly, processing everything that had happened. You really keeping us? Shen asked. Of course I am, Hana said. You're my brave little babies. Ravik made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. We tried to conquer your ship. And instead you conquered my heart, Hana said simply. She opened her arms. For a moment, the 3 young Vrax warriors just stood there. Then Shen moved forward. Then Ravik. Then Ticker. They bent down. and Hana wrapped her arms around all three of them as best she could. Their bioluminescent stripes glowed soft blue and green, colors of peace, of contentment, of safety. "Thank you," Ticker whispered. "Thank you for being brave enough to accept help," Hana replied. "That's the hardest kind of bravery there is." War Matron Kizara watched from her hologram before it faded. Her stripes showed an emotion few had ever seen from her. Hope? Perhaps? The galaxy was about to learn something new about strength after all. 6 months passed like a strange dream. The HFY continued its research mission through the outer sectors, but now it carried 3 additional crew members. Ticker, Ravik, and Shen adapted to life aboard a human vessel in ways that surprised everyone, including themselves. The changes were gradual but profound. Ticker stood on the bridge beside Taechoi, learning navigation systems. His clawed fingers moved carefully over the controls. He was patient now, willing to ask questions when he didn't understand something. The old Ticker would have pretended to know everything. "Like this?" he asked, adjusting the course coordinates. Tay smiled. "Perfect. You're a natural at this." Ticker's stripes glowed pleased purple. Praise from the navigator meant something, not because it proved his strength, but because it acknowledged his learning. In the engine room, Ravik worked with the engineering team. His superior rack strength made him valuable for heavy repairs, but he'd also learned the delicate electronic work. He was good at it, patient and precise. "Can you hand me the micro-welder?" asked Ensign Yoonji Park, the chief engineer. Ravik passed it over carefully, his large claws handling the small tool with surprising gentleness. "The power coupling is still unstable," he observed. "Good eye," Yoonji said. "What do you suggest?" 6 months ago, Ravik would have forced a solution to prove he was right. Now he considered the problem carefully. "Maybe we should check the primary conduits first. Make sure the problem isn't upstream." "Smart thinking. Let's do that." Ravik's stripes showed pride, the kind that came from earning respect through competence, not dominance. Shen, the youngest, had found his place in the medical bay. He worked alongside Hana, learning human medical techniques. At first, he'd been hesitant. Warriors didn't heal. They fought. But Hana had smiled and said, "The best warriors are the ones who can save lives, not just take them." Now he carefully bandaged a crew member's sprained wrist. His claws retracted fully to avoid causing harm. "There," he said gently. "Keep it elevated for the next day. Come back if the swelling doesn't go down." The crew member, a young human named Minho, smiled. "Thanks, Shen. You're getting really good at this." Shen's ears perked up with pleasure. But the most important changes weren't in their skills. They were in how the 3 young Vraks had learned to live. They ate regular meals now. Hana made sure of it. She'd memorized their nutritional needs and prepared food that met their biology perfectly. They'd gained weight, their fur had become shinier, and their bioluminescent stripes glowed brighter than ever. They slept in proper quarters, instead of pushing themselves to exhaustion. They took breaks. They laughed with the crew during meals. They'd learned to ask for help without shame. One evening, the entire crew gathered in the common area for what humans called movie night. They were watching an old Earth film about dogs. The 3 Vraks sat together on a specially reinforced couch, wrapped in their thermal blankets that Hana insisted they use. "This is ridiculous," Ticker muttered, but he was smiling. His tail was draped over the couch swaying contentedly. "Completely ridiculous," Ravik agreed, his eyes glued to the screen. "I like the small fluffy one," Shen announced. Pointing at a puppy, Captain Day sat nearby, watching his crew. Human and alien, all together, sharing popcorn and laughing at the same jokes. It was beautiful. Then the alarm sounded. Everyone moved to battle stations. The relaxed atmosphere vanished instantly. Red lights flashed. The view screen showed an approaching vessel, not Vrax. Something else. Something hostile. Pirate Raider, Lieutenant Hyan reported. They're armed and charging weapons. Shields up, Captain Day ordered. Prepare defensive measures. The pirates hailed them, demanding cargo and supplies. Their leader, a massive being with too many arms, grinned on the screen. Surrender, little research ship. You have no chance. Before Captain Day could respond, 3 figures moved to the front of the bridge. Ticker, Ravik, and Shen stood together. Their bioluminescent stripes had turned bright, aggressive red. Their claws were extended. Their tails lashed. You threaten our ship, Ticker said, his voice deeper and more commanding than anyone had heard before. The pirate leader's grin faltered. Vrax warriors? On a human vessel? We are crew of the HFY, Ravik announced. You will leave, now, or we will board your ship and show you what real warriors can do, Shen added. Despite being the youngest, his voice carried absolute certainty. The transformation was stunning. The 3 young Vrax, who had been cuddling under blankets moments ago, now radiated lethal danger. Their training showed. Their heritage showed. They were predators, and every being in the galaxy knew it. The pirate leader looked at his crew. Then back at the Vrax, he calculated odds and didn't like them. This isn't worth it, he muttered, and cut the transmission. The pirate ship turned and fled. The crew of the HFY erupted in cheers. Tay clapped Ticker on the shoulder. Yunji hugged Ravik, who looked startled but pleased. Shen received high fives from half the bridge crew. That was amazing, Minho said. You scared them off without firing a shot. But Hana noticed something others might miss. As the adrenaline faded, Ravik's hands were shaking. Ticker's stripes flickered with uncertain colors. Shen's ears were flat. They'd been terrified. They'd stood strong anyway, protecting their crew. But the fear had been real. Come here, my brave little babies, Hana said quietly. The 3 Vrax moved to her immediately. In front of the entire crew, they bent down, and Hana hugged them. You were so scared, she murmured. And you were so brave. We couldn't let them hurt our family, Ticker said softly. This crew is our family now, Ravik added. Are you proud of us? Shen asked. Hana pulled back and looked at each of them in turn. So proud. Not because you scared them away, but because you faced your fear to protect others. That's real courage. Captain Day approached. You 3 saved us from a potentially deadly confrontation. Thank you. The 3 young Vrax stood a bit straighter. That night, after the excitement faded and the ship returned to normal operations, Hana found all 3 cubs in the medical bay. They'd come automatically, seeking comfort after the stress of the day. She didn't say anything. She just made them tea and sat with them while they decompressed. War Matron Kesara contacted us today, Ticker said finally. Our year is almost up. Do you want to go back? Hana asked. Yes, Ravik said. But also no. He struggled to explain. We miss our home. Our families. But you'll miss this too, Hana finished. Is that weak? Shen asked quietly. No, sweetheart. That's being alive. Hana smiled. You can love more than one place. More than one family. You can be Vrax warriors and also be part of this crew. We're different now, Ticker observed. The old warriors who left wouldn't recognize who we've become. You're better now, Hana corrected. You're strong enough to be gentle. Brave enough to be vulnerable. Confident enough to ask for help. Those are the warriors the galaxy needs. Ravik looked at his clawed hands. Hands that could kill, but could also heal. Do you think other young Vrax could learn what we learned? I think you 3 could teach them, Hana said. The cubs looked at each other. Something passed between them, a shared understanding. When we go back, Shen said slowly, we want to start a new training program. One that includes what we learned here. We want to teach that caring for others makes you stronger, Ravik continued. That accepting help isn't weakness, Ticker finished. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. You're going to change your whole culture. You changed us, Ticker said simply. We're just passing it on. 3 months later, the HFY returned to Vrak space. War Matron Kazara's ship met them at the border. This time, there was no tension. Just anticipation. Kazara boarded the HFY one final time. She stood in the cargo bay, watching as her 3 warriors approached. They were different. Healthier, happier, more confident in themselves. But they were also still respectfully subordinate to her authority. They saluted properly. War Matron, they said in unison. Kazara looked them over carefully. Report. They told her everything. Their training. Their learning. The pirate encounter. What they discovered about strength and care and vulnerability. When they finished, Kazara turned to Hana. You've made them soft. I've made them complete, Hana replied. There's a difference. Kazara's stripes flickered. Then, to everyone's shock, she lowered her head to Hana, a sign of respect among Vraks. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for teaching my warriors what I could not. Hana smiled. Take care of them. And all the others who'll come after. Before Kazara left with her warriors, Hana pulled each cub into one final hug. Be brave, my little babies, she whispered to each one. We will, they promised. We'll make you proud. As the Vrak ship departed, Captain Day stood beside Hana. You changed them. Maybe you changed their entire species. They changed themselves, Hana said. I just gave them permission to be who they already were. Years later, the Galactic Exchange Program expanded to dozens of species. Young warriors trained on human vessels. They learned that strength could be gentle and vulnerability could be brave. And in Vrak space, 3 warriors ran their own training facility. They taught traditional combat skills, yes, but they also taught empathy, communication, the strength to ask for help. Ticker kept a photo in his office. It showed him, Ravik, and Shen wrapped in thermal blankets, surrounded by the human crew of the HFY.